Vice President Johnson, are you on?
I am present, Mr. President.
Very good. Commissioner Fielder, are you on? See Commissioner Pinocci just joined us. Commissioner Pinocci, can you hear us? Commissioner Pinocci?
I hear you fine.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Fielder, are you on? Commissioner Pinocci. There she is. All right.
I'm here. Thank you. And I apologize. Zoom decided to update this morning at the last minute on me.
That's just fine. All right. Looks like we're all here. Are you ready? Good morning. Call this meeting to order. Today's date is August 23rd, 2022. The time's now 9:31 a.m. We are in the Bollinger Room here at the Montana Public Service Commission to have our weekly business meeting. Would the other commissioners join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, thank you, commissioners. I would note that myself and Commissioner O'Donnell are present in the Bollinger Room this morning. Vice President Johnson, Commissioners Pinocci and Fielder are participating via Zoom. Therefore, we have quorum this morning. All right, this would be the time and place for public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Ms. Heim, please come forward.
Good morning, President Brown, commissioners. My name is Shannon Heim. I'm the Director of Regulatory Counsel for Northwestern Energy. Just really quick, wanted to close the loop on the webinar that we had indicated we would be offering related to our rate review. It is publicly available. It will be held on August 31st from 1 to 3 p.m. Montana time. We will have a link to register on our website. Our read of the ex parte rules is that because it's a webinar and there's no interactive conversation, it's really just an educational opportunity for everyone, all potential interveners, commission staff, the MCC, and our customers, that it is good for you to attend, and I would encourage it.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. Additional commenters in the room? Seeing none, are there any commenters online? Seeing none. Okay, we have no changes to the agenda this morning. So we will roll right into our action items. Action item number 1 is approval of the commission minutes for the week of August 15, 2022. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, before we begin that motion, just a point of order. I thought we were going to change some of the agenda order this morning.
I will get to that when we do the work session.
Oh, okay. When you said no changes to the agenda, I thought that would be the time. So my apologies.
That's all right. Is there a motion to approve the commission minutes for the week of August 15, 2022? Commissioner O'Donnell has moved. I will second. Discussion, changes to the minutes as drafted, revisions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner O'Donnell's Motion to approve the commission minutes for the week of August 15, 2022, signified by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Minutes are adopted. All right, let's move into our work session item. We've had a request by a commissioner to reverse the order of the work session. So to move what would be work session item number 2, which is docket 2022.07073 to the first item. Is there any objection by a commissioner to reverse the order of the work session agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll reverse that. So work session item number 1, which was work session item number 2, is docket 2022.07.073 Colstrip Energy Limited Partnership. This is KELP's petition to set terms and conditions for a qualifying small power production facility. We're here to rule on Northwestern Energy's motion to dismiss. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. President and Commissioners. In your meeting materials for today, you'll have all of the briefing on the motion to dismiss, as well as a draft staff order, a draft order that would be submitted as a staff recommendation for the Commission's approval. That draft order resolves Northwestern Energy's motion to dismiss by denying it. There are 2 primary arguments raised in Northwestern Energy's motion. First, that the mini-purpose statutes in Montana Code do not allow KELP to file a petition for a new rate until it is no longer eligible for the QFLT1 rate schedule or tariff. And number 2, that the matter is not ripe until all the parties have had more opportunity to negotiate an agreement. The analysis in the draft order before you resolves both of those issues. On the first argument, the draft order interprets the statute to suggest there's a more reasonable alternative here, that in fact KELP is not asking for a variance or an exception from the QFLT1 tariff. They're rather asking for a new term and a new price to kick in as soon as they're no longer eligible for that QFLT1. And by interpreting the statute that way, you avoid some alleged harm. KELP has outlined in its brief that it would incur if it were forced to wait until the expiration of QFLT1 to petition the commission. On the second argument raised by Northwestern Energy, the draft order taking KELP's allegations as true for the purposes, at least, of the motion to dismiss, concludes that KELP has in fact been trying to negotiate for some time with Northwestern Energy. And as a result, there is a ripe controversy for the commission to decide here. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Again, the staff recommendation is to approve the draft order as the commission's order on the motion to dismiss, and to authorize staff to make further edits to improve clarity without changing the disposition. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. I wanted to point out that the opinion that you drafted is at the same time remarkably legally sound, but easily understood in a non-technical fashion. So I think you've reached that sweet spot on the whole thing. Thank you very much for that. I would also like to point out that it seems to me that one of the major factors of PURPA is that
So, Commissioner O'Donnell, can I stop you there? Is there a motion?
yes, I was,
Okay, go ahead.
like you said, I was getting to that.
All right.
Yeah, no problem. That pays very serious attention to making sure that utilities don't stand in the way of a QF from reaching a contract term. Okay, and so therefore, I think that this is absolutely appropriate. It's in tune with the intentions of PURPA, and I move to adopt staff's language on this matter, Mr. Chairman, which is to deny the application.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny Northwestern's motion to dismiss and approve draft order 7859 and to authorize staff to make such changes as necessary to the order that are non-substantive. I will second that motion. Discussion?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Fielder.
I concur that staff's draft order on this was clear and made sense, and I do agree with this, so I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Fielder. Additional discussion? Some questions for you, Mr. Hamilton. So essentially, there are two issues involved here, as you elucidated. One is clearly just a interpretation of MCA 69-36033A. You would concur with that?
I would.
Do you know if there's been any other interpretation or any interpretation of the statute previously?
By the commission
Yes.
specifically. I don't believe any of the parties have referred to any in their briefing. So to my knowledge, no.
Okay. I would agree that that disposition of the statutory interpretation is exactly that, just a pure question of law and our interpretation of the same, in which I concur with staff's recommendation, that a reading that basically of that statute that says that what that statute is intended to do is to ensure that there isn't a change in the rate during the course of the proceeding, but doesn't foreclose a future filing. Second issue, Mr. Hamilton. This is a puzzler to me in a bit. Certainly, I don't disagree with staff's recommendation that if you're applying essentially what would be the rules of civil procedure on a motion to dismiss, then Kelp's allegation are certainly taken as true, and so we have a Kelp averring that that there has been negotiation. But my question for you, Mr. Hamilton, is there anything in our rules that talks about or gives elucidation as to when that would define when parties are no longer able to reach agreement other than a filing?
Mr. President, just to make sure I understand the question you're asking, is there anything clear in our administrative rules about the threshold negotiation requirement under PURPA, under mini PURPA in particular?
Yes.
The answer is really no. It's a very difficult standard, I think, to try to set in the first place, because there are many different forms and trajectories that a negotiation can take, some of which may indicate that no agreement is possible very early on, and others may indicate that the parties are working towards a amicable resolution. So no is the short answer, and the longer answer is I think it would be very difficult to set one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Is the commission looking at setting some or engaging in some rulemaking in this area?
Indeed, we have some pending rulemaking on our PURPA rules that'll be scheduled for a public hearing on the 30th of this month. Included in the proposal is an amendment to one of our rules, the general provisions of our PURPA rules that would require the parties to negotiate, mirroring what you see in mini PURPA. But again, the requirement set in that rule as proposed is not a bright line. For the same reasons that I discussed before, very difficult to set a bright line on that.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. With that stated, I will be supporting Commissioner O'Donnell's motion. Is there additional discussion? Commissioner Pinocci, did you want to weigh in?
No, Mr. President, just getting ready to vote.
Okay,
That
very
darn
good.
mute button's been slow.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I saw you took yourself off of mute. So, all right, seeing no further discussion or questions, we'll vote on Commissioner O'Donnell's motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. All right. Next work session item, which is formerly work session item number 1, has been moved to number 2. This is commission initiated 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We're here to discuss investigating whether the commission or any of the entities that it regulates intends to or should pursue any of the opportunities available from the IIJA. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The document that's supplied with the commission's work papers is in the form of a notice of opportunity to comment, but functionally it's a brief memorandum explaining the concerns of, my concerns as far as what the IIJA has in it and the way in which the commission might reasonably use the resources that are potentially available to us under the IIJA. It essentially provides a forum for external parties to, as it were, show their cards as far as the ways in which they intend to use the IIJA to supplement whatever issues of risk or resource adequacy they see, or how third parties might suggest that funds that have been made available be used by either regulated utilities or by the commission itself in order to engage in activities that are first under the commission's jurisdiction or otherwise required by the IIJA. With that having been said, I am open to any questions that the commission might have.
So let me just clarify, Mr. Reed. So what the matter we're acting on and it is to open an investigation? Or is this more like a comment proceeding?
It would be a bit of both, Mr. President. I think it would be functionally, it would be a comment proceeding rather than an investigative docket. I think it would be opened as an investigative docket, but the commission would take a more passive role in the investigation.
All right, Mr. Reed, thank you for that clarification. So with that, I'll move to have the commission open an investigation, essentially comment proceeding as to whether the commission or any entities that it regulates or intends to should pursue any of the opportunities available under the IIJA. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Pinochi has seconded. Discussion?
Question, Mr. President.
Yes, Commissioner Fielder.
This is for Ben. Ben, what do you anticipate? I'm sorry, Mr. Reed. What do you anticipate the schedule would be for this initiative?
Mr. President, Commissioner Fielder, I initially drafted this a couple of weeks ago. And so what I would anticipate is to move the date somewhere for acceptance of written comments to somewhere around the end of the second week of October. From there, the staff would generate a memorandum that we would submit to the commission for further action. And the scope of that further action would be dependent on the course, content, and character of the written comments that were submitted.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to follow up on that. So, Mr. Reed, as I'm reading the proposed notice of opportunity to comment, that states that the commission will accept written comment until September 30th, 2022.
Mr. President, yes, that's correct. And I would propose that the commission can either keep that date or I would suggest extending it a couple of weeks from that time to give all parties time to put together some cogent and thorough commentary.
Okay, I'm not sure how to handle that, Mr. Reed. So do we need to, as a commission, and amend? Take action to amend the notice of opportunity to comment to reflect the longer time period, or is that just understood as part of my motion?
I can certainly take it as understood as part of your motion, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed. Additional discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you all are aware, I intend to introduce a work session in the near term that will address this question of resource adequacy in Montana and in the region by establishing, hopefully, an investigatory docket that would lead to a series of roundtables of parties with vested interest in that coming to the table. And I'm just wondering if that isn't, and I don't know if we get into problems with deadlines for applying for IIJA money, but if not, I wonder if that isn't a logical place for this discussion to take place, where we have that formal structure dealing not just with IIJA, but also the broader resource adequacy question for the state and for the region, Mr. President.
Mr. Reed, do you want to address that?
Mr. President, Vice President Johnson, I am not, I think it would certainly work to have the questions about the IIJA bundled into a larger question, a larger docket about resource adequacy. I don't think that would be problematic. My thinking here was to simply have the IIJA issues as a discrete matter. But there's no reason that they couldn't, as I say, be bundled in with a larger question.
Preference, Vice President Johnson, would be to move forward with notice of opportunity to comment, which we're considering right now, and if need be, we can combine the two proceedings into one. I'd rather start taking comment on the IIJA sooner rather than later than waiting on our resource adequacy docket, if you will. Any objection to that, Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no problem with that, so long as we don't incorporate in this motion a deadline for comment that's going to get us crossways as we move into the other investigatory docket.
Okay. Additional discussion?
Mr.
Yes, Commissioner Fielding.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think probably keeping these as two different dockets would make the most sense, just at this point, especially because the scope of the IIJA is somewhat narrow compared to a resource adequacy type of a docket. And I can see where there would be a correlation and where the information gathered in one will, be reflected or utilized in the other. But I agree with just moving forward with this motion, focusing on IIJA at this time, and then this may help inform Commissioner Johnson's, the way he frames his additional docket that he's planning to open.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Fielding. Additional discussion? All right. Seeing no further discussion on this matter, all those in favor of my motion, which would be better restated perhaps is that we will open up an investigatory docket which would include the issuance of the draft notice of opportunity to comment with a revised date for the public to submit comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. All right, seeing no opposition. Motion carries. All right, that concludes our work session items for this morning. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Just for public information purposes, on Friday, the 26th at 1 p.m., there will be an SPP market and informational meeting, which will be conducted in the Bollinger Conference Room here at the Public Service Commission in Helena. This will be live streamed and recorded. And then our next commission business meeting will be on Tuesday, August 30th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. Seeing no further business to come before the commission, time is now 9:55 a.m. I will adjourn the meeting.